Just-in-time privileged access is a critical cybersecurity practice in organizations that want to protect themselves against having always on or stale privileged credentials used against them in a cyber attack. Just-in-time access ultimately involves creating new privileges or allowing access to privileges for limited amounts of time, only at the time that they're necessary for the person or even the machine or application to do the necessary job. You can grant access for 30 minutes on Wednesday to perform a particular task, and then the privileged access goes away, and you're not exposed to the potential leaking of that credential to be used against you by a cyber attacker. So I'm going to give a demo of how Zage Security enables just-in-time privileged access to let you empower employees, contractors, third parties, OEMs, supply chain partners, and more while protecting your enterprise from risk. I'm starting out here in the Zage interface as an end user, and I'm going to be playing the role of both the end user and the manager administrator granting the privileged access in this context. So right now, I'm logged in as a user and I can see all of the assets that I might potentially have access to for my job. Some of these have further levels of control that I would need to get through before I would be allowed to access them. You can see some that have an MFA requirement and some that have authorization requirements. So for this authorization requirement one, I'm going to use this to demonstrate just-in-time access. I am going to request access, and it's going to pop up this dialog that is requiring me to put in the time window for which I need access to this particular asset, and is going to give me a field to put in some notes about why I'm requesting access. So I'm going to set the time for a couple minutes ago, so that starts as soon as possible for this demo, and then I'll give myself about 30 minutes, or give myself an hour just to be safe. Requesting access for just-in-time access demo. I submit. So once I submit, we see pending approval, and an administrator is going to need to grant me the access I've just requested before I can access this DMZ workstation with an RDP administrator account. Okay, I'm going to put on my administrator hat and switch over to the Zage Manager. Here, I'm going to look at the left sidebar where I've got all kinds of useful information about users, devices, network resources. I'm going to go down to the Sessions tab and look at Device Access Requests. And I can see here that my request has come through and is pending approval. So I can check the box there, open it up and look at details. Looks like, okay, Chase is requesting access for just-in-time access demo. We're going to go ahead and say, great stuff, Chase. Give a great demo of just-in-time access and approve the request. Once that request is approved, disappears from the access request list, and we can move back to my user hat and see that now this has switched to pending approval from access requested. And as soon as that approval comes through, then I will be able to open up that DMZ workstation, or it's possible that it'll have another level of authorization or authentication that needs to happen. Even after I've been approved, I might still need to do another MFA challenge in order to protect this asset from an attacker that may have somehow gained access to my credentials. So layers of protection are an important part of just-in-time access. Here it looks like I'm approved, but now it's still MFA required, as I was saying. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the device. And I'm using an authenticator app on my phone. You could be using a different authenticator app, FIDO keys, all kinds of mechanism for MFA, though notably we do not allow SMS-based authentication because that has proven to be very vulnerable to MFA bypass techniques. So attackers know how to do SIM swap attacks, social engineering to get access and get around SMS-based MFA. So we no longer allow it on here. And I'm going to go ahead and type in my code from my authenticator app. And verify. negotiating credentials and activating an account. That's setting up a new set of credentials on this endpoint for me to access so that I don't know the username and password that are actually on this device. Zage has negotiated a new one for me. And now I have my just-in-time access. I'll be on here. I'm allowed to be on here until the end of that time window that was approved, and I can do whatever sort of work that I need to do on this machine. Now, if I switch back over to my manager hat or my administrator hat, I can go look at active Fabric user sessions, and I can see that I'm able to see myself in user mode accessing this device. This is an active session that's happening. So if I, for whatever reason, as an administrator, get uncomfortable with a current session that's happening, I am able to go ahead and look at the details of that session, look at how long it's been going, what's been going on, and if I decide, okay, you can see my login times, my various information about the actual session, and if I decide that that session is not something that should continue happening, I, as the administrator, can go ahead and terminate it. So I'm going to go ahead and terminate that session. And I have the opportunity here as the administrator to suspend user accounts to prevent subsequent login. If I'm terminating a session in midstream, that probably means that there's something going on and I want to be able to check in with this user before letting them log right back in and go back to doing what they're doing. So I'm not going to do that to myself for the purposes of this demo, but it's an option. I terminate the session, successfully terminated. I go back here and in user mode, I've been kicked out. I'm not inside the environment anymore, and likely that administrator is going to be reaching out to me about that. So that's how just-in-time access works in Zage, and just-in-time access in general is a really critical part of all privileged access management activities and general secure remote access best practices and zero trust best practices to reduce the attack surface that is represented by always on, potentially stale privileged credentials that have been the entry point for so many cyber attackers to get in and cause real harm to the enterprise. So if you liked that, please visit zage.com to learn more about our zero trust access and protection solution. And thanks so much for watching.